Hey, what's up, guys? Dollface Actual with Dollface6 here, and today is August 15th, 2026. 5 years since the Taliban took over Afghanistan officially. And I had a long day with many friends, Afghan and American friends. First part of the day was spent with Afghan United Front Veterans Summit, and the evening was spent with the women and girls and the men who support the women and girls' education, work, and freedom in Afghanistan. The 50th day for a demonstration to inform the public that women and girls are being persecuted in Afghanistan and cannot go to school or go to work. So, long day. I had an article that I wanted to release today, and I've been working on it for the last few days, but more keeps pouring out. So it is on theme with democracy and revolution in Afghanistan. I guess that'll be the only hint that I'll give you. My article is meant to discuss democracy and revolution in Afghanistan, as well as inform you, the adventurer, the viewer or the consumer of my soon-to-be content. It is going to walk you through some of the questioning that I ask my guests in true-false format, which ultimately were questions that I started to ask myself post-withdrawal. And they do have to do with democracy, war, revolution, and a few other things. So I'm thinking about the last 5 years and how it doesn't really seem like it's been that long. Like most people who will probably see this, it was just absolutely jarring to watch on the big screen corporate TV in my lounge at my corporate office, in my corporate skyscraper, doing my corporate job, 10 years on after having been in Afghanistan. I was living what would be considered like that normal 9-to-5 job, with all the life fixings that, those things that we understand as normal. Although now I don't really even know if I know what that means or if that's something that I want, but regardless, I watched the Afghan withdrawal live on TV like a lot of people did, like a lot of you did. And, I suppose I'll go into at some point, especially having met, some people just even throughout today, it's almost a refresher, things that I think about all the time, but things that people don't necessarily know about me unless I'm meeting them at these events and whatnot. So, watching the Afghan withdrawal on the big screen at work, and also being at that corporate job and getting just an onslaught of messages from Afghans on LinkedIn, the majority, pleading for me to save their lives, even though I had no control. I was disconnected from the community, kind of living on a lonely veteran island. I hadn't even realized that I had no veteran community in the life that I was living, outside of, those kind of buddy checks on social media, or hey, what's up, girl, or hey, what's up, homie, how you doing? My day-to-day life wasn't plugged into the veteran community in any way except for social media and content. So those messages that I was getting were, they rocked me, you know, and I really felt like I had control to be able to help save these people's lives. And so with that being said, I then felt very out of control, because I thought I should be able to do more with this, and that it just didn't make sense. So I think I'm with a lot of you out there that are living the normal lives. You know, for most of us, I think anybody who's watching my stuff or listening to my stuff, like, we were in country a long time ago now at this point. But, you know, we're, especially as a result of the withdrawal, I think we leave a piece of us there. And I was actually talking to one of the girls from my platoon about this not too long ago, like a year ago. And some of the girls on my platoon, some of the women on my platoon don't like that I say girls, but it is just my vernacular. So please excuse that. I was talking to one of the girls from my platoon, and we were, you know, kind of opining a little bit. But I said, I feel like I never left. Like, I feel like I'm stuck there. And she said, Donahoe, none of us left. We're all still there. And I was like, wow, you know, that goes pretty hard. So at least I know I'm not alone in that. And certainly observing the outcry during the withdrawal on X and Instagram and social media. And yes, that veteran outcry, you know, it was observable on mainstream, like, cable news channels and such. But it has dissipated quite a bit. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think people are just so unsure about what happened. Even though we could say, oh, I know exactly what happened. I mean, that's true. But that doesn't mean that we're able to reconcile what happened. It's shocking. So, and it's not just like a shocking, like, just like blip or moment in time. It makes 20 years shocking. Maybe we were, like, desensitized to it at the time. I mean, I know that we were, you know, I think now that I'm a little bit older, like, conditioning would be the word that I would use. People who could say that we were groomed. You could argue that. But for the most part, we all wanted to be there. We all wanted to do what we were doing. But conditioning, certainly, physically conditioned, mentally conditioned, spiritually prepared with that that Mora's sort of that Mora's warrior spirit. But anyway, Afghan United Front is the final in 3 of the most prominent resistances to start kinetic operations. NRF has been conducting kinetic operations since day 1, which was August 17th, I believe, was the date of their formation. Afghan Freedom Front, led by General Yassin Zia, has been quite active, and they were formed in March 2022, from what I understand. This is research-based and just kind of scuttlebutt, I guess. Afghan United Front, originated by General Sami Sadat, was formed in October 2023, and they're sort of the final of these 3 to commence kinetic operations. NRF and AFF have been for basically since both of their inceptions. So a couple years. So 3, and from what I heard today, there's another resistance that's kind of a younger, newer resistance that is not favored compared to the 3, but that they're a favorable, they have a favorable profile. A pleasant wouldn't be the right word, let me think. You get what I'm saying. They like them. They're well liked. And it's a younger group as far as the organization, and I think its composition as well. Although AUF is young too in its composition. I'm sure all of them have some youngins, but that's a little breakdown on the resistances. In my opinion, the 3 most prominent Afghan resistances are now fully engaged in kinetic operations, which is, you know, that's what we imagine, if you will, when we discuss or interpret the term revolution. We generally think of armed resistances and hand-to-hand combat and explosives and violence. So that is the primer for the article that I'm writing. And, you know, enough was coming to me in the last couple days trying to put it all together that, you know, I would have liked to release it today. I'm disappointed I couldn't release it today, but I'm grateful that I got to spend time with Afghans and allies, American allies. Interesting little flip there, huh? But I'm hopeful for Afghanistan, and you know, to share time with people when you're doing a commemoration like you are today, like we did today. I think that's really important, and I feel really grateful that I got to participate in that. So I don't know what I was doing. I was trying to do like a small thing, but like a small video, but of course it turned into 12.5 minutes. So next couple days article, democracy, revolution.